since Rigify is not so well documented and it's ongoing, it's in the process of modifying and expanding the tool. We are a bit on a change because we are waiting to see how the add-ons will be enabled in 2.8. So lots of the feature we are currently developing are on hold. And now I will show you what is already inside Blender in 2.79b. First of all, what is Rigify for people who maybe doesn't know? Rigify is a tool that helps automatic creation of character rigs. What does this mean? It means that it does not just put an armature in there, but it creates complex control and automations you can use for character animation. And basically what you get with Rigify is a bendy bones deformation system, a control system and widgets, meaning you will not only see the bone, but you can also see the shape, a custom shape or customizable shape of a bone. You will have bone groups created for you, and you have bone colors created for you. And it will also build a basic Python interface to operate with the armature. What you doesn't get out of the box is binding the geometries to the rig and making the armature waiting. But I'll come to that later because if you are having enough topology and your bones are correctly placed, you can get this in few clicks. So for people who doesn't know, I work at Mad Entertainment in Italy, and we are currently the maintainers of the add-on. The add-on had a great story before us, and we hope to keep this ongoing. We used it on Cinderella the Cat. It's a movie that we presented last year here in the conference, but also for lots of other works, for minor works just to test new feature or personal projects to test characters that we are not going to use in production, but useful to test features. And even for some visual effects we are doing, maybe if you want to see more of that, we have a panel tomorrow in the theater. But also other people is using out there Rigify, and I'm always thrilled by people who's, I don't know, but except for the name, that writing things like that. This is Luciano Munoz. I don't know if he's here or not, but I want to thank him because he made some cool review, but also some tutorials on how to make Rigify. And this is what I really think is important, that the animation he did took just about 20 minutes to rig it. This is the animation he made. I just found it on Twitter, searching Rigify, and I want to share with you. But there's more people using out there. You maybe know this EEV demonstration that is showing the EEV capabilities with this character. I will skip it because I think everyone should already know. And this is, if you scroll down in the YouTube preview, you will see the trick creator was made with Blender 2.79 and rigged with Rigify. You may notice if you look at the video that these are Rigify widgets. I will show you, if I have time, how to deal with the porting 279 rig characters in 2.8. He managed to do it by himself, but you can also see a typical error with Rigify. It's down there. It's like a Rigify footprint. It's the Rig UI user interface in Python that maybe we should fix something one day or later. It gives an error because autorun of Python scripts are disabled by default in Blender. This is very typical. If you get this error, you will not have the user interface in the viewport. So what's cool about Rigify is that if you just set up a simple chain of 3 bones, meaning you have the upper arm, the forearm, and the end, you will get a complex animation system that lets you make things like that. This is just automatic weighting untouched. So if you place correctly the bones and you have enough topology to work with that, you can get something like this right out of the box. I will show you this in Blender because this is a file I have open here. So what is a meta rig? Before starting this workshop, we have to make clear some understanding. The meta rig is a collection of predefined rig samples or rig type. There's a difference between the two, but we can, for now, skip it and keep it all together. So if you ever seen some of my previous conference, you may have already know this slide. You will see each chain of bones as a master bone that defines the typology, the type of the bone, and the subtype it will create for you. So in this case, you have the face that it's a peculiar case. I will talk it in the last part. The super copy is a basic utility. The limb that are a multi-utility bone that contains arms, legs, and paws, and the spine. So how is made a rig example? Example is a predefined example of rig type. That's where the things get a bit complicated, meaning that it's like having a collection of properties on this bone. The other two are connected to one to each other. So this is technically a bone chain, meaning is a self-content. You can move it over, and it's a rig part. And you define this as an arm. You just need these three. And this is like one of the part of the rig. To build your own meta rig, you have to know that there are some available rig samples pre-made for you. The first class is the spine. Then you have limbs, the basic, that are utility objects. Experimental, you never use it in production unless you first get in touch with us, because maybe it's something we are just testing and it's there for other purposes. And faces, this is going to be deprecated. I'm going to expand this argument later. So spines just contains for now one sample, is the super spine. This is something we inherited from the second iteration of Rigify, meaning the Pitchy Poi version. And we made our best to keep this in touch with the old feature that people were missing, but at some point we have to rewrite it from scratch because now the code is a total mess. Because with just 3 bones, you can define this new property, and you have a basic spine system, meaning the upper body, the hips, and the torso. One thing I have to show you in a while is these are the bones you see, and maybe some controls were added later, but this will be a big bone chain. So maybe you can split it in 12 parts and so on. These are the options you can define in a typical rig type. For the spine, I told you is a mess because it contains the option to create you the head system, the tail system. You can specify the pivot position and where the neck starts. So this is a complex spine with the head. You have, if you see the previous slide, at 5 and 2 are now neck position and pivot position. You will see here, this is set on 1, is the first bone where you get the property. Then 5 is the bone where the neck is. And from that, he will automatically detect that the last one is the head. And then you have the pivot bone where the hips will be split in 2 parts. This is a more complex example because it's a spine with a tail. The effort here we are inherited from Pitchy Poi and we're not working where we touched that the first time, is that they were trying to make a single big bone chain from the end of the tail to the top of the head. This is useful because if you try to rig some vertebrated animal without legs and you want one only chain to be flexible and bendy, like you want, this is the goal they were trying to achieve. We fixed that, but we believe we have to make more easier for people to work with that. So I told you I'm starting with the worst one, maybe. That's the spine, because it's usually what you need to have inside the scene to start a character. Let's have a look at the spine, for example. Yes, not this, not this. I will have another band resistance for that. Let's enhance the interface a bit. Okay, now everybody knows, I think, if you enable the add-on should be enabled like going in the add-ons and writing Rigify. In Rig, it's the only one. So Rigify you can enable. Just for people out there that are missing the old version, you can push this button and now you are working in legacy mode, meaning you are using the version like it was before we touched that. So if you don't like it, please don't complain, just press this button. And this is also for compatibility issues, because if someone has character rigged with Rigify, usually you never need to re-rig it after you have done. And the Rigify rig is useful by itself. You can use without Rigify. You just append a link or use it in the scene and it works anyway without making any difference. But if you want, maybe you have older projects and you want to tweak something, you may need to use the legacy mode to use all the rigs. So this is just how you enable it. And then the annoying bug is in file, you should have these auto-run Python scripts enabled. Otherwise, the Python API will not be, the Python user interface will not be loaded in the file. So you can just add a meta rig. The meta rigs are just the presets I show you. Human is the new standard human. We are using the new features. Animals is brand new, like it came up in 277, I think. And you have predefined basic things. And some basic, meaning basic human will have no hands or face. And basic quadruped will have, again, no face and no clothes. So it's basic. Here where we can look to something. But if you want to deal with some sample, you first have to add a single bone. Then you go in edit mode. You can also delete it because you don't need it. And from the armature panel, you will find here all the available samples. Now, to understand what a sample is, just let's import the spine as I told you. Spine, super spine, add sample. What happens is that Blender creates for us a chain, meaning these bones are all connected together, one to the other. And if you go in pose mode, you will see the first bone will have this property set for you. What happens when you click generate? Right now, we have only this bone, and this is a replication of the armature layer panel, meaning this bone or chain is sitting here on layer 1. If I click generate right now, without using any advanced option, I click generate, that's what happens. This is the control system Blender created for me, and on the 13th layer, I have the bone deforming system, meaning these are the control bones that should be separated by an interface, but I have not set it up in the add-on now, so it's not working properly. Meaning these are controls. They are making the movement on this armature, that is the deformation armature. Now, if you display it as B-bone, you will see that the deforming armature is made of B-bones. And you can make everything you want, almost. So here you have, in a basic setup, the upper body that moves all the upper part of the body, the torso, and the pelvis, the neck with the head isolation, and the head. Lots of options are packed for you in this, like head follow and neck follow are preset on these numbers, meaning that if you rotate the torso, the neck is now following 0.5, 0 means stays as is, 1 follows the torso, the same goes for the head. And plus you have the tweaks you can use to make changes. This is already stretching accordingly. So there's a lot of automation work that Rigify does for you just from the bones you set. Using more samples is pretty easy, but I want to show you first what are the other samples. Limbs is a superclass that contains arms, legs, paws, rear paw, simple tentacle, super finger, super palm. Seems a lot of it, but basically the arm, the leg, and the paw. This is another gift from Pichipoi, making all in one sample. I think we should split this up because the problem is each type or subtype requires a predefined number of bones. Meaning the arm needs 3, the leg needs 5, the paw needs 4. So understanding this is a bit confusional, and I always suggest you, if you want to deal with the custom recreation, you can just go inside here, and in the edit mode you can add another sample and see how it's intended to be used. Like I put here a rear paw. That's made on the cut dimensions, so I can just enhance it a bit. Okay, now I have a paw and a spine, and here I can see from the sample how the sample should work. Meaning this is a connected chain of 1, 2, 3, 4 bonds. Then there is some bonds not connected to this, are parented but not connected. You know the difference? A parented bone is just a bone that depends on one other bone. A connected bone, it has the merged bone in the tail and the head of a bone, meaning you cannot detach one from the other. This is connected, this is not connected, but it's parented. So for the paw, you just need these properties. You can inspect it by yourself if you want. You see, here I have prop, limbs, paw, rotation axis automatic, I will come to this in a while. Limb segment, big bone segments. This is very interesting because limb segments will define how many splits, how many tweaks control I will have here between each bone, and bone segments, how many big bone segments will be created during the chain. So if I generate it right now, I just added a bone, a sample, and I generate again, the rig will be overwritten, and now I have this new paw working with inside the main rig. There is the root that moves everything, but something is missing. If I move the upper body, nothing happens. This is where Rigify is really powerful because you don't have to destroy and remake everything from scratch. You just need to go here. You parent the first bone to the fourth bone of the other chain with keep offsets because Rigify needs to know there are 2 separate samples. And if you go keeping visible both things in generate, it will be overwriting the existing ring without touching the feature you already had. And now you can make it work like this. If you go, now I don't have a character, but if you go on the layer 13 here, these are the deforming bonds that actually deform your character. Usually they are gigantic. And the other ones are the widgets. So this is ruling the lower part of the leg and so on. And as I was telling you before, I defined there are 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from here to here, 10 B-bone splits, and 2, meaning 1 split per each bone, meaning this tweak is because I divided by 2. I can make it 3, 4, 5, whatever you want. If you have an arm extra long, you can split it in more divisions, so you can have more control, but you can even here tweak your animation like you want, taking advantage of the B-bone settings, and so on. You also create for me the paw controls. So there's the master control for the toes, or paw claws, sorry, it's an animal. You can control it by yourself, or you can split it like using the palm. Okay, you see that there are lots of armature layers involved in this. That's why we're using the UI creation and bone groupings and so on. But that's the basic of Rigify. You have a sample predefined. You can use it, import it by entering in edit mode and use add sample. You can define the properties you want. Then you can attach it. You can generate. If you don't like this feature, I don't like to have a leg here anymore, you just go in edit mode, just select all the bones you want to remove, or maybe just put it on a separate layer. It maybe just does for you if you use a predefined sample. You delete it, and if you keep both the rig and the meta rig visible and you generate again, that feature is overwritten and you have edited your rig. And this way you can add one arm or more to your character even after he's animated. No problem, because the feature you already have remains untouched. You can remove features not working from your character, and this is a process you can do all inside Rigify. One other thing I should mention is that the name of some controls are predefined by Rigify, meaning torso is defined by the Rigify add-on, hips, chest, neck, and head. These are predefined because our controls needed to make the automations, but the bone inside will have the name you define. So this is very important. Lets you name it like you want in the language you prefer. Will not be touched. So if you can call this like pelvis 1, chest, the naming convention will be retained into the final rig. This is something you think is just useful, but it's how Rigify works. It doesn't need to know how the bone is named, because it just checks for which is the first one, where is the last one, which are the props I have to change, and then it builds up your rig. So the other rig classes are, these are the options I showed you. Automatic bone roll orient. This is a feature we added last year because we think that Rigify should go in a more easy way, meaning how many people knows what a bone roll is? Yeah, okay. That's when you teach something, armatures and rigging, it's something people have not so much confidence with it, because you have to enable the axis alignment. You have to know where bone is pointing. So we are trying to remove, or at least give the option to make it automatic for Rigify, meaning having a straight angle, a slight angle in each limb or sample, it will auto-detect where the joint should be bending and will orient the bones accordingly. Always you can switch to manual and define, if you are a pro rigger, your settings, but we are trying to make this as easy as possible for newcomers. Also, you have a separate FK, IK, tweak armature layers. This is something you can define here. And I show you first the example of the arm, because here is where you see when you have completely set Rigify what you get. I think it's easy to see here. This is the animation on the character. You can watch it on a different angle, so you see what's happening to the controls. Okay. What's important here, there's no shape keys applied in any part of this. This is just bones working. It meaning that if I go to a pose I want to change, maybe let's go to the bent arm here. What you get basically is you are not using tweaks, you're just using the basic controls. You get this. But you can tweak and create the exact position you want. This is also a cool feature. If you pull this toward the joint, it will automatically bulge. And the cool thing is you don't need to know how to set this up, because you just need the 3 bones to make this upper arm, forearm, the end. You just need to know that, and you can have this exact same rig. Yeah, the fingers are applied later is other samples. It's on the list, but if you ignore the finger movement, the arm is just set up with that 3 bones and a click. That's over. What you get also, you will have in animation tools here, Rigify animation tools, meaning you can, this for more for pro animators. Basic animator can choose to use the standard IK or FK, but in a hybrid situation you may need to switch this animation to FK. You know what forward kinematic is, the difference between inverse and forward kinematics. Basically, the inverse kinematics, it's ruled by the last bone of the chain, meaning I move this and the arm will move accordingly, and then I have to specify where is the orientation of the elbow. Okay? The forward kinematics, meaning to reach that exact position, I need to first move this, then move this, then move this, and so on. This is another thing Rigify differs from other basic rigging system, is that the FK control is totally free in any direction, because otherwise you have to split the chain in a non-convenient way, and for animators it's, at least for in our experience, easy to just make this happen like this, rather than bending, 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 and propagate it always from the top. But these are, another handy feature that the IK and the FK shares some orientation, so you can snap the FK to the IK, meaning FK to IK. Now the FK gets the exact same position from the IK, and you can switch to FK with no effort. And now I just use the FK control to rule. The nice feature is what happens if I have already animated this and I want to port it to the FK. No problem. Rigify has this panel included. If you have the add-on loaded, it can transfer the animation for you, just this pose, if I want, or the entire action. And the other feature is a lot of people was missing the traditional pose system. This is also included. If you want, you are ready to animate with that, but you can also bake this and switch to rotational pole or to standard pole system. You can choose it by ear. Okay. There are obviously some minor glitches when you go back and forward, but basically what you need to do is, I have this hand on the table and I want to move it like this, but when I raise up, maybe I want to tweak it by FK, then I want to switch, but I need an inter-range where in that range the keys are matching. I can match all the animation if I can make FK to IK action, then I made only selected, so okay. That should port the animation from the IK to FK and so on. What else? Okay, how to rig this? Now I destroy the rig. This is just the arm. This is the basic setup I have here. I have a shoulder bone is a basic copy, meaning you just let Rigify create a widget for you and a deform bone for you. Then I have this chain, the 3 bones I was telling you, that's parented to the shoulder bone. Then these are the fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right now I'm using the option simple tentacle, but there is also a super finger option that's more similar to the old finger of Rigify. And then these are the palm bones. The palm is a very specific type. I suggest you, if you don't want to go testing, just import the arm sample and start from there. But when I rig it, he made the rig for me somewhere here. Now it's not deforming anything. I attached, but I wanted to show you how this works. This was my final result after some armature weighting, but if I delete all the groups, oh wait, fantastic, what happened? Okay, this is displays using here. Okay. I just select one, select the armature, Control P with automatic weights, and the only thing I suggest you is put the armature before the subdivision surface, if you have one. That's what's coming out of the box. Let's keep the animation up. Can't remember which one is. Okay. No, that's not it. Okay, that's it. Auto weighting. Okay, so the automatic weighting depends on where you have topology. Here you can see the topology is pretty clean and have enough sections to bend, and where you place the bones. That's it. If you have enough topology and you place correctly the bones, you probably will have to do nothing or a really tiny adjustment on the armature weight. So basic has these two utilities. Super copy is when you have a bone, you just need that one bone there that has to deform, or you have to parent something to it. You can just use that type. It creates for you the option for use the widget, create a control bone or a deform bone. If you uncheck this out, you just have this dangling bone in the rig hidden somewhere. Basic copy chain is a really useful thing. I don't know if I will have time to show each part of this, but it basically copies all the chain you have done without touching it. Meaning you can make parenting constraint on that. It will copy as is and port it into your rig. So it's very useful to create custom things we have not coded into Rigify. Experimental, yeah. This is fixed now, but since it was used for Cinderella Cat, during the production we had this super chain like a multi-utility bone, meaning one guy maybe has a bad gear. I need the bone starting from here, getting here, one from get here, that auto stretches and lets me bend like you have seen before. This is working now, but it's not working 279, so experimental gets that name for a reason. Phases. Why I was saying phase is going to be deprecated. Phase is something that's totally non-standard as implemented in Rigify. Again, we inherited this from PCPOI. Why is not standard? It requires a predefined set number of bones, meaning if you remove just one bone, Rigify will crash and not generate anything. The other thing is cannot make asymmetrical things, meaning you cannot have only one eye, you need to have two, and so on. It's name-based, so if you just change the name of one bone, it will crash again. There's a reason why it's there, because I think someone in a time decided to copy a basic phase rig that was somehow working in Blender and import like there as a sample. But there's an effort you have to do to make it work with Rigify. I want users to define how many bones or bendy bones they want for the lips or the eyes, the eyelids or the brows. This is not possible with the current phase. It requires a lot of coding because you have to split again in subsamples. You have to create the mouth samples, the eye sample, the ear sample, the nose sample, and so on. So you can mix it together and create your own rig phase. We made some steps forward with that. I probably show it tomorrow in the other conference because it's more an experimental feature. It's only on our repository. You can test it obviously if you want, but it's not here. And now I have quick examples. The shark meta rig, I want to show you how it's done because it's very basic, but it contains lots of options. Maybe since the time is flying, let's start with the horse. Okay, I have this horse geo. It's a geometry. When I create a meta rig, I always have a geometry as realistic as I can and as low poly as I can to test the meta rigs. And if I have done the work correctly, you just add horse meta rig, you generate the meta rig, so that now you will have a Rigify rig. The Rigify rig already contains all the armature layers divided in panels, or already has the bone groups here. They are preset for you this way. And if I now take the geometry with automatic weights, it should work right out of the box. This is a spine with the integrated tail and the integrated head with isolation system. So this is the neck. You have isolation control here, but that's something more I want to show you about this feature. If you remember the spine, if the distance between the head and where you place the neck is more than 3 bones, it will go in this experimental feature automatically. We have not advertised it so much because it still requires some control, but meaning you can just move the head like that, and then if you want to try it, let's make for a while the rig in X-ray so I can see it. Oh, okay. If you pick up the head and just move it, you have a basic integrated IK you can use for running and so on. This is worked by under the experimental superchain. It's here. If you use this feature, please never first rotate here, okay, the neck, and then you go for tweaking in the IK mode, because if you detach the head and make this position, you can do it, but that animates just by that, because now you have offsetted pivots. And okay, so this is a kind of feature that you could experiment and maybe see which one are needed or not in the final version. But again, this is no weight painting at all. This is what you get from geometry and bone positioning. And I also have my test file where this is posed, and should also have some pose library here. No? Okay, no problem. Here's a pose you get right from the rig I showed you. And that's what we use in animation, is doing like this. Or maybe reverse move this, cursor to selected, then I move the torso back, then I selection to cursor, and I can make it keep the head straight in the pose. It's useful when you have more than 3 bones. Moreover, you have the option here to change the orient of the neck in the center, and so on. I think we have some small time, but we'll go to show you something more. In advanced rigging, I would like to build a monkey rig that's is not included in Rigify yet, for one reason I will show you. Let's open the monkey. This is the monkey rig, and as you may guess, it's generated by using Rigify parts. So I have a spine here with the tail. The rig says in the generation that the tail position is number 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here starts the tail. Pivot position 10, here we have the pelvis. And then here is the neck. These are two basic copy. And you will see here, this is also standard in the Rigify human. These are two bones, they will not appear in the rig. They're useless, except for deformation. Meaning, automatic weighting is working, looking at the nearest vertex to the nearest bone, and it parent it. So when you want to make something more rigid, you just put some more bones there, invisible, just deforming and parented to the main bone you want to follow. Like in this case, in the pelvis, you always find this, but I have 2 or 3 more in the face. Usually, the head is not enough. I put these 2, even if I'm not rigging the eyes, to keep that part of the skull static. Then I have here a paw. This is technically a leg, because if you use paw, you will lose the ability to raise the heel and to bend it on the sides. One note about placing the heel bone, you will find this in the wiki, but this should be placed where, let's show the geometry, should be where the heel is touching the floor, and should represent the sides of the foot. So you can roll it on the 2 sides. And if I generate this rig right now, I just regenerate the rig so I can override it. You will see why this is not included. And how to fix it, if it happens. Automatic bone rolls will make most of it for you, trying to get the exact match for the orientation. But if it fails, meaning the standard human has the arms like that, and is meant to work like that or like that in automatic mode. But this monkey has the bent arms, means are like that. So you will see here a flipping happening in the rig. Whenever this happens and you know that's for a reason, you just go in pose mode, Control A, apply pose as rest pose. Now the rig will retain this as the standard position and will be not flipping anymore. If you are wondering how this works, it works, I must say, quite well. This is another feature cool for Rigify limbs. You can set it to, if you have a torso, a spine in there, you can tell the arm to follow the torso, even if in AK mode, so that you have some sort of a hybrid system where, let's say, I put this arm here. This is the tweak you can do. Whatever it seems you can break it, just tweak it. And now, if I want to keep this like this, and having this one follow the root bone, and the other one not, you can have one hand on the table and one on the upper body. If it's not enough, you can also choose to not follow at all anything in the rig and having something placed like there and stay there forever. you can do by ikfollow of 0. Meaning you can also move the root. No following is happening anymore. And so on. So basically, to make this monkey rig, you just need geometry, 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 spine. That's all. You just tweak the parameters and you get it. Let's see if I have time to see something left. In Burrows, I showed you just now, custom shapes. Rigify by default comes with some shape predefined here. And you will see that there's some issues here. Like, I cannot know which is the size of your character, or maybe the arm. So sometimes the controls sits inside the geometry. That's not very practical. So if you want to change a shape of a bone to make it work better for you, let's say I want, where are the FK control or the tweaks? Let's say I want to move this tweak control here, and I want to make it bigger to see it outside the rig. All the widgets are placed here. You can see in the last layer here, there are all the widgets. So if I take this one, that is one accountable for that, and I scale it like that, that is propagated to the rig dynamically, and now it's here. You can do it even keeping the 2 layers visible, so you can make it like this. Keep note, you have to do it in edit mode, but that's it. What's more? The copy chain, I will have no time to show you, because I want to show you how you encode your meta rig to Python. Yes, I'm done. Just 1 minute, I'm done. Encoding your meta rig to Python is pretty easy. You pick up your rig here, your meta rig here. You go in edit mode. In edit mode, you will find these 2 buttons. Encode meta rig to Python. If I press that, now you will have a Python script here. metarig.py. If I remove this and I run the script, oops, you have to put it on Rigify then. Meaning you have to copy this script in the folder, Rigify folder, and then when you will find a button here that creates that sample for you. But you can encode this right straight ahead, and this will recreate all the things you have done. That's how we had the rig is here, okay? Sorry, the time is over, so thank you very much. If you have questions, you can ask me outside.